Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. If you've seen any of my recent videos, perhaps you look down in the comments and you know I've been teasing this video for a little while. So today is the day that we're going to get started on it. Not going to finish it up today because there's going to be a lot of different parts to this and I want to make sure that I do them all justice. So I'm going to drop this comparison in 3 different videos. This is going to be the start of my 3-part video series on comparing an Aero gravel bike to an Aero road bike and seeing if you can use an Aero gravel bike as an all-around do-it-all bike, because that's a lot of times what they're billed as. So in this first video I'm going to talk about a little bit about the specs of both of the bikes, some of the comparisons with weight, some of the component choice differences, and we're going to do the first measured test, and that is going to be my standard out and back course with a little bit of rolling hills and a lot of flat sections. So that should be a good baseline comparison for a flat or minimally rolling course. In video part number 2, I'm going to take both of these bikes to a steep hill. We don't have a whole lot of climbing here in Kansas, but we do have a couple of good hills that we can work from, and one of them has some pretty steep pitches on it. It's about a 2.5 to 3 minute section of a pretty good steep climb. So I'm going to go there for video number 2 because I think that's going to put a lot of emphasis on the weight difference between the 2 bikes, because there is a bit of weight difference there. In the 3rd installment in this series, I'm going to talk about the more subjective aspects of the comparison, things like ride feel, looks, and just my personal opinions on which I would choose if I think a gravel bike can be a good do-it-all bike, or if I think having more specialized tools for the job is necessary. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel. That way you can get notified when each of the new videos comes out in the series. So I really hope you like this comparison. I've been looking forward to it for a really long time. Now we're really getting into the details of it. So give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, and let's get into the comparison. So, a couple of big disclaimers on here. This is not going to be an exact like-for-like frame comparison between the Aero gravel bike and the Aero road bike. So there are going to be differences in the wheels. I don't have an identical set of wheels to go between both. The road bike is rim brake, whereas the gravel bike is disc brake, so that's a comparison there. And third, the tire choice is going to be different. I don't have a set of identical tires between the two. And of course, component choices is going to be different as well. So another huge disclaimer here is my power meter selection is not going to be identical between both. I have a Cork dual-sided power meter. Shouldn't say dual-sided. It's not an actual dual-sided power meter. It's a spider-based power meter that does a calculation for dual-side power. But on the gravel bike, I only have a single left-hand side power meter pedal, a Aero Assioma Uno. In my experience, it's been pretty close. My power balance measurements are usually within 1% or 2. So I'm hoping it's a close enough comparison to give you an idea. So with those out of the way, let's go on to the test. So if you've watched my other comparison videos, you know my test course. I'll go ahead and put a screenshot of that here as well. Just remember, it's 3.3 miles, about 200 feet of elevation over the course of it. It's got some turns, some rolling corners, some slight hills, and a little bit of flat as well. I do these tests as closely as I can back to back because I want to minimize the amount of changes in the weather with wind and temperature and all of that, because that can really throw off the test. So I do them as quickly back to back as possible. So keep that in mind as you're watching this. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I don't really need to go through the numbers to show you how big of a difference there was, and I was really not expecting that, but interesting nonetheless. So let's just go ahead and go through the numbers real quick. So the Aero gravel bike, road wheels and tires, time of 1040 with an average power of 198 watts, normalized power 213 watts. Average speed 18.5 miles an hour. And I'll go ahead and put the conversion to metric on the screen here. So that correlates pretty well with what my previous road wheel and tire versus gravel wheel and tire speed was for approximately the same power. So that's on par with what I expected. However, the Aero road bike did it in a time of 10 minutes flat with an average power of 197 watts, so 1 watt less. However, the normalized power was slightly higher at 215 watts. Perhaps that meant that I just put down a little bit more power when I was getting up to speed. And the average speed was 19.7 miles an hour. So 1.2 miles an hour faster on the Aero road bike. So quite a large difference there. So I don't want to speculate too much on where the differences could lie between the two different bikes. However, I will say that the position between the two is nearly identical, only a few millimeters off one way or the other. I don't adopt a traditional gravel bike position of being, you know, shorter reach and a higher stack because we have such long and straight gravel roads around us. So I almost mimic my road bike position entirely, at least as close as I could get that. So body position shouldn't be significantly different between the two. The tires, there is a little bit of rolling resistance difference with the Pro ones on the road bike being a little bit quicker, but we're talking a couple of watts here or there. So 5 watts or so shouldn't make that big of a difference between the two, maybe a little difference. The wheels, there's going to be a difference there with the 50 mil deep wheels on the road bike versus the 34 mil deep wheels on the gravel bike. But I did a past video, which I can link up here, on wheel comparison that I did on the road bike, and there really wasn't a huge difference between a very aerodynamic wheel and a really not aerodynamic wheel between the two. And the gravel bike does actually have a fairly aerodynamic set of wheels. They are alloy, but they're aerodynamicist developed and much more aero than what I compared previously on the road bike. So the difference between the wheels shouldn't be as significant, maybe a couple tenths of a mile an hour here or there. So I think what it boils down to is just the difference in the aerodynamics of the frame. And I say that because I lost a lot of time on the flat headwind section, taking off and going. I didn't lose a significant amount of time going uphill or downhill where weight would come into play. But interesting results nonetheless. So go ahead and let me know what you think down there in the comments. Give me your thoughts and opinions. Love to hear it. So as always, thanks for watching. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like this video, and follow along for the next parts in the series. Enjoy your ride.